So today saw the end of yet another failed wind project that was scheduled offshore. And it supposedly, Ecuador and BP have decided that it is no longer economical to move forward with the project, quoting high interest rates, inflation, and supply chain demands. The unfortunate part that nobody's actually talking about here is the pressures that they've actually been receiving on the environmental front as well, because the number of whales in the area that have been dying and have been recorded as per deaths, just I think something like 37 this year, something like 212 since 2016 due to the pile driving and sonar interruptions and things like that they've been doing. If we're going to do green projects, don't you think that we should be looking at the entire environmental cost, not only to fossil fuels, which everybody's so determined to compare everything to CO2 levels, but to the impacts on wildlife, to the impacts on, the birds, the whales, fishermen, lifestyles, and careers that people have. So I was really quite pleased to see this, but it was fascinating to note yet again, these are just not economical projects, and the costs are often more than what the benefits bear. And we're going to be here in Alberta talking about Alberta projects and an Alberta pension plan and the Canada pension plan and ESG and diversity and equity, and how government seems to be the only one pushing a lot of these silly policies without any regard for the human impacts, the true environmental impacts from a holistic perspective. It's all just an agenda. And I think they're getting a little desperate because things seem to be falling apart more and more right now on a number of different fronts, which I think is both good and bad. I think we're winning the war here as far as some of these global elitists and their attitudes and policies. The problem is, I think the more we win, the more battles, the closer we get to closing the gap with them as far as power and influence goes, I think the more chaos they are actually going to try and create. So a small win today, I think personally, as far as BP Ecuador canceling this big offshore wind project that they had, I think it was off the coast of New York, and noting obviously not only the economic costs with interest rates and inflation and supply chain issues, but the fact that people are beginning to talk about the true environmental impact and the number of whales that have been impacted, as well as fishermen and other areas that have not typically been taken into account, because everybody goes, oh, it's green, it must be good for the environment. Hydroelectricity, if you ever, having grown up in Labrador myself, seen a hydroelectric plant, and when they dam something, the environment is the one who pays the price. Rivers basically run dry as they are just, the flow is controlled. The areas downstream are just destroyed as they're flooded and disrupting and destroying, the lives of so many animals and their migratory patterns, so everything comes at a cost. And I'm not saying we don't do these things, but what I'm saying is isn't it time that we took an entire 100% holistic approach to analyzing the benefits versus the risks and the cost to not only, our humanity, in labor costs. People want to promote batteries and green technology, but nobody seems to be wanting to talk about the slave labor that is going on in some of the countries that produces the cobalt and the lithium, etc., for these batteries. And we can't just continue to do that. We need to start taking a holistic approach. So yay, another small win. Globalists, beware.